You know what? When a person discovers that they are a mutant within the X-Men comic book storylines, they're often met with disdain from friends, family, and loved ones. They're bullied and attacked. So when they're invited to join the X-Men, it feels like a dream come true. Not only do they have the chance to do some good with their newfound abilities, but they're surrounded by superheroes who had the same insecurities as them when their powers first manifested. And because of this, it's not too surprising that many mutants in the X-Men have found comfort with their teammates, not just platonically, but romantically. But you know what? That doesn't stop them from being a little bit shocking from time to time. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 most shocking relationships in X-Men history. Number 10, Jean Grey and Beast. If you thought relationships are hard and time travel is confusing, well, try putting them together. Actually, don't do that because as Beast and Jean Grey proved, it gets really messy. Over the years, Beast believed the X-Men's leader Cyclops had lost his way. I mean, the fact that Scott killed Professor X was probably the first sign of this, and as a result, Hank McCoy built a time-traveling machine to transport the X-Men from the past to the present. Hank hoped that Cyc would get his drive back after seeing how the idealistic younger versions of himself, Beast, Iceman, Angel, and Jean Grey were. However, Hank's little experiment created more problems than he could have ever anticipated. After young Jean Grey saw how disillusioned future Scott had become, she no longer found him attractive, jeopardizing their relationship in the future. And just to make matters worse, Jean accidentally read future Hank's mind in all-new X-Men number 15 and discovered that he'd been infatuated with her from the moment they met. When Jean told young Hank that she knew he harbored feelings for her, he insisted that he couldn't act on them since she was destined to be with Scott. After she told him she didn't love Scott, Hank and Jean had their first kiss. Number 9, PSYLOCKE and Bishop. After Professor X seemingly died during the Ultimate X-Men run, Professor Charles Xavier's students went their separate ways. Because Lucas Bishop was from a timeline where the team's disbandment led to Apocalypse taking over the world, he created a new X-Men crew to stop his dystopian future from ever becoming a reality. This group, which consisted of Wolverine, Psylocke, Storm, Angel, Dazzler, and Pyro, were tasked with stopping Andrea and Andreas Fenris from constructing an army of Sentinels. After breaking into the Sentinel factory, the Fenris twins got the drop on the X-Men. As they were about to shoot Psylocke dead, Bishop told them to get the hell away from my wife. Now, considering that Bishop was over twice Psylocke's age and the pair had barely spoken, the X-Men were quite taken aback by this proclamation. After they defeated the Fenris siblings, Bishop explained to Psylocke that she would meet his younger counterpart in this timeline and marry him. Despite the fact that he loved her deeply, Bishop avoided speaking to Psylocke as much as possible to avoid jeopardizing her encountering and falling in love with his younger self. Number 8, Cyclops and MADELYNE Pryor. When Jean Grey died, for the first of many times, her partner Cyclops was left understandably heartbroken. So, when Scott met a woman called MADELYNE Pryor who looked remarkably like Jean, he was instantly smitten with her. Although MADELYNE felt that Scott was only interested in her because she reminded him of his ex, she decided to marry him. When they had a baby called Nathan, Sinister revealed that MADELYNE was actually a clone of Jean that he created. He believed that Scott and Jean's offspring was destined to become the world's most powerful mutant, which Sinister would now use to destroy Apocalypse. Even though MADELYNE wasn't Jean, Sinister believed that she could conceive the ultimate mutant since she had Jean's DNA. When Apocalypse learned of Sinister's plot, he infected Nathan with a virus, apparently killing him. Upon learning that she was a clone and that her child was seemingly murdered, MADELYNE was left traumatized. Instead of supporting his grieving wife, Scott left her to go back when Jean was discovered alive and well. Up until this point, Scott had been depicted as a loving man and a dedicated superhero, so readers were appalled to see him acting so uncharacteristically cruel to the woman that he claimed to love. Number 7, Kitty Pryde and Colossus. Now, Kitty Pryde may have jilted Colossus at the altar recently, but that doesn't change the fact that the pair are amongst the most important relationships in the X-Men history. From the very beginning, their rapport stood out since it dealt with many complex and relatable issues like crisis of faith, divorce, and obviously being possessed by Dracula's daughter. However, the biggest factor with the couple's partnership has always been Kitty's age. Even though the comics are usually vague with characters' ages, the X-Men series made it clear that Kitty was the youngest member member in the group, and since she was only 14 years old when she joined, she was often perceived as the kid sister of the team. Although the 19-year-old Colossus rejected Kitty's flirtations at first, he eventually gave in to his urges and embraced her on multiple occasions. Marvel's editor-in-chief Jim Shooter found this situation highly problematic and so put an end to it. During the Secret Wars storyline, Shooter had Colossus fall in love with another, compelling him to break up with Kitty. The couple only got back together many years later after Kitty's age was no longer considered an issue. Number 6. Mystique and Azazel. In 2002, Chuck Austen took charge of the Uncanny X-Men series. Sadly, Austen's run was heavily criticized for sexism, poor characterization, ugly art, and convoluted plots. However, the storyline that drew the most criticism was the Draco. Although it was common knowledge that Mystique was Nightcrawler's mother, the identity of his father remained a mystery for many years. In the Draco, it's revealed that Nightcrawler's father was Azazel, a demon-like creature that claimed to be Satan himself. Azazel courted Mystique so that she would conceive a child with mutant abilities that he could then use to escape from his hellish dimension. Even though Mystique has had many lovers, Azazel was one of the few that she genuinely loved back, and was absolutely heartbroken when she learned that he didn't feel the same about her. Even though the story tried to be heartfelt, comic fans were not having any of it. Having Nightcrawler's father as Lucifer wasn't just silly, it was actually contradictory, because isn't Mephisto's Marvel equivalent of Satan? The idea that Mystique hooked up with the devil was detested by readers, to the point where it was actually retconned so that Azazel was simply a mutant who likes to pretend that he's the ruler of hell. Number 5. Archangel and Husk. If you thought that Mystique's relationship with Azazel was the only thing that Chuck Austen screwed up, well, think again, because during his run, Austen decided to also have Archangel partner up with Paige Guthrie, who is better known as Husk. Because the founding X-Men is much older than Husk, which he emphasized on several occasions, their coupling was considered a massive taboo. If one had to pinpoint the most inappropriate moment in their relationship, you need only look at the She Lies with Angel storyline. While Husk argued with Archangel, she pointed out how all of his previous relationships ended in failure. And how did he react with that? Well, flew into the air, tore off all of her clothes, and had sex with her in full view of his teammates and family below. Not only is this moment pointlessly shocking, it has nothing to do with the plot. This storyline revolves around Husk's brother developing mutant powers and deciding to date a non-mutant. Sadly, the only thing that anyone remembers from this saga is Angel and Husk getting busy in public for no reason. Number 4. Storm and Wolverine. Because Wolverine and Storm joined the X-Men at the same time, the two had a special connection since the get-go. Even though they've always had chemistry and the two have been a couple in alternate realities and timelines, their relationship never seemed to evolve beyond friendship. And after Storm married Black Panther and became the Queen of Wakanda, it looked like Storm was ready to settle down. But after her brainwashed teammate Namor decimated Wakanda, Black Panther couldn't risk being associated with Storm and so annulled their marriage. He encouraged her to be with anyone who made her happy, except Wolverine, since, because Black Panther hated him. Storm decided to do the exact opposite though when hooked up with Wolverine in the showers immediately after. Even though she was only trying to spite her ex-husband, this was the beginning of Wolverine and Storm's relationship. Less than 2 years later, their bond came to an abrupt end when Wolverine was killed. In Storm number 4, she displayed her grief for her longtime teammate, friend, and partner by bathing the entire world in an aurora borealis. Number 3. Mystique and Professor X. Mystique has been one of the X-Men's most reoccurring foes since she debuted. Despite their rivalry, several of Professor X's students have had relationships with her. However, the most surprising partner Mystique has had is the X-Men's founder himself, Professor Charles Xavier. After he died, his solicitor, She-Hulk, headed to Xavier's estate to read his final will and testament to his students. Because the X-Men naturally assumed that their mentor would leave the estate in their hands, they were shocked to learn that Xavier had bequeathed his home to Mystique, who was his wife. This revelation wasn't just shocking to the X-Men, but to readers as well. Up until that point, there wasn't the slightest indication that the pair were a couple or even friends. As a result, many Marvel fans probably reread some old comics trying to find some indication that the two were ever a couple. Since Mystique had been making the X-Men's life hell for years and had recently kidnapped and tortured one of their teammates, Dazzler, the shape-shifting supervillain was the last person the Merry Mutants ever suspected Xavier would marry. But he did. Number 2. Cyclops and Emma Frost. After Cyclops was possessed by Apocalypse, Scott's mind was left absolutely rattled, causing him to grow distant from his friends and his teammates. Even though Jean tried to reconnect with him, Psyche pushed her further away and refused to sleep with her for 5 months. Out of frustration, Scott asked for counsel from Emma Frost, who was a trained therapist. Using her telepathy, Emma created a psychic relationship with Scott where they broke down all of his insecurities. As she delved into his psyche, she was able to manipulate Scott to have a telepathic affair with her. Because their intimacy was non-physical, Scott assumed that Jean would be none the wiser. But since Jean is pretty much the most powerful telepathic in the universe, she decided to use her powers to peer into Scott's mind and discovered the affair. When Jean died shortly after, the X-Men naturally assumed that Scott would put an end to his fling with Emma out of respect to his late wife. However, it was at this point where the two developed a full-time relationship, where Scott showed little remorse for his actions, much to the dismay of his teammates. And number 1, Rogue and Magneto. Despite Magneto's philosophy of destroying humanity, which has constantly put him at odds with the X-Men, he and Rogue have had chemistry for decades. Even though the sexual tension between them has been teased as early as Uncanny X-Men number 274, the pair never got together until they did. After Professor X's son Legion rewrote reality, Rogue found herself in a world where she fell for the master of magnetism. After she returned to the real world, Rogue realized that she was still attracted to the X-Men's greatest enemy, and in X-Men Legacy number 249, she spoke to Magneto, believing a confrontation would help suppress her feelings. Unable to hide how they felt for one another, Magneto and Rogue slept with each other pretty much there and then. And when Mags realized that he didn't want to be with anyone except Rogue, he did the unthinkable in X-Men Legacy 274. And no, it wasn't destroy humanity or anything like that, he just proposed to her. Rogue turned him down though, saying it wasn't the right time. I mean, to be fair, they were surrounded by charred rubble and dying civilians when he popped the question, which is a complete mood killer, mate. Even though Rogue cared deeply for Magneto, she came to the conclusion that they just weren't meant to be, and left him, which was probably for the best. And there we go, my friends. Those were the 10 most shocking relationships in X-Men history. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice. It's where I do all my streaming, board game content, and Warhammer Battle reports outside of work, and it'd be great to see you over there. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.